Neanderthals first appeared in Europe about 350,000 years ago, and have survived for a long time in Western Asia and Europe, but went extinct 20,000 to 30,000 years ago. And the area where they lived will be occupied by Homo sapiens. What would their life be like? And what kind of gene did the Homo sapiens that occupied this area have? First, let's find out where the Neanderthals lived. Based on the excavated sites, I tried to mark the area where Neanderthals were active on a map. They lived in Europe, the Levant region, and even Central Asia. Dotted areas are the remains of Neanderthals. Recently, scientists have analyzed DNA extracted from the remains of Neanderthals. The study found that 3 genetically distinct groups lived in Europe and Central Asia. Most of the ruins are caves. Why did they live in caves? First, let's look at the climatic environment of the time in which they lived. The Earth experiences an ice age every 100,000 years. It is estimated that Neanderthals first appeared during the interglacial period between 350,000 and 300,000 years ago. They survived 3 ice ages. However, it went extinct between 30,000 and 25,000 years, when the last glacial maximum came. During the ice age, where they lived, sea level was 120 meters lower than it is today. So England was connected by land. Also north of Europe and Siberia had huge ice sheets. These are the Fennoscandian ice sheet and the Siberia ice sheet. The ice sheet was up to 3.3 kilometers high. According to a recent paper published in the scientific journal Nature in August 2020, the average temperature of the Earth's last glacial maximum 20,000 years ago was found to be 7.8 degrees Celsius, or 46 degrees Fahrenheit. In the 20th century, the average global temperature was 14 degrees Celsius, or 57 degrees Fahrenheit. The Ice Age was 6 degrees Celsius and 11 degrees Fahrenheit cooler than it is today. Only animals and plants that have adapted to the cold, including modern humans, could survive. To survive the harsh cold, Neanderthals would have had no choice but to live in caves. Before looking at the life of Neanderthals, let's take a look at their physical characteristics. They wwere shorter than modern humans. The man's height is about 160 centimeters, and it is estimated that he weighed more than 80 kilograms. The woman was about 6 centimeters shorter than him. Their brain capacity was 1600 cc, which is greater than that of modern humans. The nasal cavity was larger than that of modern humans, and the collarbone was longer than ours. The rib cage of modern humans is cylindrical, whereas theirs is cone-shaped. Their limb bones were thicker than ours, and their trunk was shorter. The hip bones were flaring, and the hand bones were robust. Also, the joint surface was larger than ours, and lower leg was short. The Neanderthal had a protruding forehead and a large nose. The protruding face was inherited from the Heidelbergs, and the secret of the big nose was evolution to adapt to hunting and cold. In a paper published in Proceedings of Royal Society B in 2018, the reasons for the need for a protruding face and a large nose have been revealed, unlike modern humans. Unlike modern humans, who breathe through a combination of nose and mouth depending on the amount of activity, Neanderthals mainly use their nose to breathe. It is explained that the middle of the face would have protruded more due to this function. The picture you see now is a comparison simulation of airflow between modern humans and Neanderthals, when breathing at 0 degrees Celsius. Neanderthal nasal and facial structures were found to be more suited to regulating large amounts of cold air than in modern humans. Professor Jason Burke of NITCOM's Department of Anatomy said, based on our data, Neanderthals' breathing air control appears to be slightly inefficient compared to modern humans, but their ability to inhale and exhale large amounts of air through their noses into their lungs was significantly superior to those of modern humans. In fact, simulation results showed that the noses of Neanderthals were able to transport twice as much air to the lungs as modern humans, and it is speculated that this may have been the driving force for a vigorous and mettled lifestyle of chasing and hunting large animals. It is also believed that the ability of Neanderthals to inhale large amounts of oxygen at cold temperatures may have helped keep them warm and active in the Ice Age environment. The short stature, broad shoulders, and conical rib case are suitable for the cold Ice Age. A small stature torso has a smaller surface area than volume, so it can prevent heat loss. Also, due to their large muscle mass and big brain, they would have required more energy than modern humans. A similar body structure can be found today in people living in cold regions. So, is this body structure innate? Or is it something acquired while growing up? According to a paper published in Science Advanced in 2020, it has been studied to have this structure from birth. In this study, the torso of 4 infants was reconstructed by digital. The study has shown that Neanderthals are the same as modern humans from birth until day 100, but grow faster thereafter. So, let's take a look at the life of Neanderthals. They lived in caves. Unlike modern humans, the spear was not thrown from a distance, but stabbed from a close distance. He was the first person to care for a colleague who was sick or injured. They also took care of the elders. And sometimes they even practiced cannibalism by eating their own people. This is generally known so far about Neanderthals. Since 2010, new archaeological excavations have led to a re-evaluation of Neanderthals. They had more skills than ever known. They also painted murals in the caves. In the caves of La Pasiega, Spain, it becomes a ladder made of red horizontal and vertical lines drawn 64,000 years ago. It was painted before modern humans arrived in Europe. In the Maltravieso caves, hand stencils that are more than 66,000 years old have been found. It is believed to be a Neanderthal. Dyed seashells are found in the Cueva de los Aviones cave. A used perforated seashell used for decoration was also found. It is estimated to be 120,000 years ago. Traces of pigments from 65,000 years ago have also been found in the Ardales limestone caves. Part of the stalactite was broken, exposing the pigment, which could be found. Modern humans are not theirs, as they arrived in Europe about 45,000 years ago. Imagine a Neanderthal playing the flute. 43,000 years ago from now, the soft sound of the flute resonates deep inside the cave. Can you imagine? In 1995, a perforated animal bone that looked like a fruit was found in the cave of Divje Babe, Slovenia. It was next to a fire pit from the mustier cultural period. It was the perforated thigh bone of a cave bear about 1 or 2 years old. There is some debate as to whether the puncture was done while chewing the bone, but it would be surprising if it was intentionally pierced. Wind Instruments researchers replicated it and analyzed the 4 holes. The remaining hole positions correspond to those of the current flute. It is said that the major scales corresponding to do, mi, and pa can be played. At least 43,000-year-old seashells with orange pigments have been found in Cueva Anton, Spain. It is presumed to have been used as a personal ornament with aesthetic and symbolic significance. At the Krapina Neanderthal site, Croatia, 8 white-tailed eagle claws and 1 phalanx bone are excavated. Their surface has traces of ochre pigment and black finish. I presume it was used as a personal ornament. 120,000 years ago. Based on the fact that no intact skulls were found in this cave, it is also the site where the possibility of their cannibalism was first raised. Also found are the remains of non-food teeth with abnormally excessive wear and tear. This suggests the possibility that the incisors were used for tanning to soften the animal skins. Neanderthals made and used Mousterian stone tools. It is a different technique from the previous Écoulier, which broke the original stone and used the body stone as a tool. The technique they used was to remove the shards from the pre-cut stone and use it. This was a revolutionary technology at the time. The removed pieces were used as spear blades, and used for skinning and slicing meat. A spear was made by attaching a stone blade removed from the body stone to a tree. To do this, tar extracted by heating birch bark was used. Large mammals were hunted with these tools. The large animals provided not only their favorite meat, but also the tendons, bones, and hides they needed to make the necessities of surviving the Ice Age. Traces of the use of a toothpick clock are also found as a result of analysis of Neanderthal teeth. Neanderthals also made and used organic tools made from animal bones and seashells. It turns out that they made tools by grinding the bones of their own people. It has been known for a long time that Neanderthals mainly ate meat. However, according to a paper published in PLOS One in 2020, they proved in an ingenious way that they also used marine resources. A research team led by Paula Villa at the University of Colorado, USA, studied tools made from shells left by Neanderthals. Excavation began in 1949 at the Grotta dei Mosserini cave site located on the west coast of Italy, and many shell tiles, stone tools and pumice stones were found. The team analyzed 171 shells found here and shells from Neanderthal sites off the coasts of Italy and Greece. Analysis of the shells revealed that a quarter of the shell tools were shellfish that inhabit 2 to 4 meters in the sea. They made shell tools out of stone and pumice stones excavated around the shell tool. It is evidence that they dived down to 2 to 4 meters. This claim is also consistent with a study on osteoma of the Neanderthal external auditory meatus published in 2019. Osteoma of the ear canal is a common disease among divers. A research team led by Professor Eric Trinkers of the University of Washington, USA, found osteoma of the ear canal in the majority of Neanderthals. Compared to understanding, only a quarter of early modern humans occurred. The two studies prove that Neanderthals used marine resources. Remains of Middle Paleolithic stone tools on Greek islands indicate early seafaring by Neanderthals in the Ionian Sea, possibly starting as far back as 200 to 150,000 years ago. The oldest stone artifacts from Crete date to 130 to 107,000 years ago, Cephalonia 125,000 years ago, and Zakynthos 110 to 35,000 years ago. The makers of these artifacts likely employed simple reed boats, and made one-day crossings back and forth. Other Mediterranean islands with such remains include Sardinia, Melos, Alonissos, and Naxos. And it is possible they crossed the Strait of Gibraltar. If this interpretation is correct, Neanderthals' ability to engineer boats and navigate through open waters would speak to their advanced cognitive and technical skills. Although controversial, traces of burial practices have been found in caves where Neanderthals lived. Flints along with the remains of children have been found in La Pharisee caves in France, Dideriye caves in Syria and Kizilkoba caves in Crimea. And the mandible of a 10-month-old red deer has been unearthed as a burial in the Amud cave in Israel. Leaving a burial in the grave meant sharing sorrow and believing in an afterlife. Neanderthals probably ate grilled meat. It also appears to have attracted soups, stews or animal broths. The abundance of animal bones in the settlement means that the bone marrow made a stock of fat. The size of Neanderthal teeth tends to decrease after 100,000 years ago. This means an increased dependence on cooking and the advent of boiling, a technique for softening food. Traces of smoked meat in Cueva del Sidrón, Spain. Yarrow and chamomile were used for flavoring and medicinal purposes. At Gorham's Cave in Gibraltar, they roasted pine cones for pine nuts. The French Grotte du Lazaret shows the preservation potential of food. During the autumn hunting season, 23 red deer, 6 ibex, 3 aurochs, and 4 deer were hunted. After moving the carcass to the cave, they were slaughtered all at once. They would have to be preserved in some way, as they would not have been edible all at once. In Cueva de los Aviones, Spain, the remains of harvested clams and Anya rubens were stored at sea, and believed to have been eaten alive and fresh when consumed. So far, we have studied the area where Neanderthals lived, the climate environment, and their lives. After leaving Africa, Homo sapiens appeared in the area where they lived about 45,000 years ago. And after 10,000 years, they take full control of it. Neanderthals and early modern humans lived together on the same site for nearly 10,000 years. It is not known exactly what happened between them. Maybe they lived while fighting each other. And some may have married peacefully and lived together. Modern humans today have some of the genes they inherited from Neanderthals. But did early modern humans, who lived alongside Neanderthals, have the same genes as present-day Europeans? In conclusion, no. They were a group with the Y chromosome haplogroup C, which was born 53,000 years ago in Western Asia. It was found through DNA analysis that is inherited only in males. For more information on this, please refer to the migration path of the Y chromosome atom linked below. So let's take a brief look at their travel routes. Among modern humans, only a few groups with the Y chromosome haplogroup CT type, that lived near Ethiopia 70,000 to 100,000 years ago leave Africa. Somewhere in Western Asia 75,000 to 70,000 years ago, the CF group, descended from CT, was born. The C group, descended from CF, was formed 53,000 years ago in Southwest Asia or somewhere in Asia. Modern humans with Y chromosome haplogroup C spread to Europe and Asia. This type of gene is found in ancient populations on all continents except Africa. The detailed movement path of the C-type mutation will be introduced through another video. Now, let's take a look at the distribution of modern humans who first came to the Neanderthal zone by time period. Among the prehistoric sites, only those that have the results of genetic analysis of the remains of ancient humans are displayed on the map. Show haplogroup C and its mutations. The paper published in Nature in November 2020 contributed to advancing the time for modern humans to advance into Europe by 45,000 years. Then let's take a look, shall we? What did the first Europeans look like? British investigative scientist Richard Neve used the science and technology to restore faces from the remains of victims at crime scenes to restore the first European faces. It is a restoration of the remains excavated from the Peștera Oase cave in Romania. And he was featured on the BBC's The Incredible Human Journey program. They had much darker skin than current modern Europeans. Its appearance is halfway between African and Asian. The results of mapping the Y chromosome other genes and mitochondrial DNA of the remains unearthed from the Neanderthal domain are introduced through another video. Since the Neanderthal genome sequence was published in 2010, many genetic studies have been conducted. It is thought that crossbreeding occurred between Neanderthals and early modern humans. Neanderthal DNA is found in non-sub-Saharan populations. Modern Eurasians have 3.4 to 7.9% Neanderthal-derived DNA. Europeans have 1.8 to 2.4%, and East Asians have 2.3 to 2.6% Neanderthal-derived DNA. As a result of DNA mapping, crossbreeding occurred between 86,000 and 37,000 years ago. The frequency is highest between 65,000 and 47,000 years ago. Since modern humans do not have mitochondrial DNA derived from Neanderthals, it is presumed that Neanderthal males and modern females interbreed. Neanderthals and Denisovan were also crossed. Denisovan genome sequencing from Denisovan caves revealed that 17% were of Neanderthal origin. Part of the remains of Deni, an 11-year-old girl, 90,000 years old, has been found in Denisova cave in Russia. She also calls her Denisova 11. Her father was a Denisovan who lived here, and her mother was close to European Neanderthal, who lived in the Vidija caves in Croatia. How did they get married and have Deni? It appears to be a mystery that needs to be uncovered through future research. Neanderthals, who were the masters of Europe, disappeared after 35,000 years ago, and replaced by modern humans. Why did those who were stronger than modern humans and had larger brains disappear? There are several theories as to the cause of the extinction. First, it is argued that this is because they have been pushed out of the resource competition with modern humans, who were culturally superior. They were able to seize resources because modern humans' ability to accumulate, transmit, and communicate among groups was superior to them. Because the period to reach adulthood was shorter than that of modern humans, they had to fight for survival without adequate education. Or it is argued that the culturally superior modern humans exterminated them. Second, there are environmental factors as well. The disappearance coincides with the arrival of the last glacial maximum. Prey would have dwindled and their numbers would have decreased. Italy's Campanianic Nimbrite volcano erupted 40,000 years ago, causing Europe's temperature to drop by 2 to 4 degrees Celsius. Unlike modern humans who lived widely throughout the globe, it must have directly influenced the lives of Neanderthals who lived mainly in Europe. The third is disease. There is also an opinion that African diseases came along with modern humans entering Europe and contributed to their extinction. It can be fatal for those who do not have high immunity. Also, due to the small population, inbreeding may have been high. This could have resulted in an increase in birth defects, and mutational disruptions could have dramatically reduced their numbers. As seen in 20th century New Guinea cannibalism, they may have suffered from Kuru disease for the same reason. All of these factors seem to have worked in combination. In a paper published in PLOS One, computer simulations showed that even a small decrease in fertility could cause a species to disappear. It is a simulation in which a group of 70,000 Neanderthals falls below 5,000 and disappears. 70,000 is the number that is estimated to have the largest population. And 5,000 is the ecologically minimum number that a group can survive. It is said that if it goes down to less than 5,000, it is almost impossible to recover and disappears. The modeling considered only 3 conditions: fertility, survival, and mobility. Neanderthals run simulations on 3 populations: Northern Europe, Southern Europe, and Eastern Europe. The simulation showed that the population disappeared as infant survival decreased. What is interesting about the results of this study is that 70,000 Neanderthals could disappear, even with a slight decrease in the fertility rate, in the firstborn age group without any change in survival or mobility. The age of first childbirth was based on the age of 18 to 20 years. It was assumed that only 10% of all childbearing ages were first childbirth. Other things being equal, if the first delivery rate decreases from 0.141 to 0.137, the population disappears after 10,000 years. When the fertility rate goes down from 0.141 to 0.135, the population disappears after 6,000 years. Decreasing from 0.141 to 0.130 means that the period of disappearance of the population is only 4,000 years. Time in the simulation is the period during which Neanderthals and modern humans are thought to have lived together. A combination of the reasons described above may have reduced the number of reproductive years. Europe, once landed by Neanderthals, is now completely occupied by modern humans. And it flourished here and spread all over the world. They worked hard, unaware that the night was getting deeper. But what did they leave behind on Earth? Will the blood of the first Europeans remain on them? Thank you for watching till the end. Please subscribe and like. If you set notifications, you can receive new video news.